Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. It's right at 2 o'clock or 2:01. I think I'll just give another minute for a couple more folks to join, and we'll get started. Thank you again, and we'll get started in a couple minutes. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if the announcement came through earlier, but we're just going to give a couple minutes, probably in the next minute or so, we'll get started while I let some of the folks come in and join. Perfect. We'll get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This is our, I want to say, 10th AI Roundtable. So we've been doing this for the last, probably about the last year and a half, just kind of gathering and discussing what's going on with the AI world. And it's been an interesting evolution. I think it'll come out in the conversation. So just want to kind of set and jump a little bit into the ground rules for everybody. I'm going to be moderating. My name is Karan. I'm the CEO of Aivantage. I've been in financial services for a long time, data, and now a lot more in AI. So, but I'm going to be contributing probably the least, looking to you all to sort of do some of the discussion and hear what's going on in the space. We have a mix of banks and credit unions. We tend to vary sort of in terms of the number of credit unions and banks we have. But again, this is a sort of a collaborative discussion that we'll be having. Just some basic general guidelines or rules. Speak freely, listen fully. Just let's allow everybody to finish their thoughts. Uh, Everybody's going to be unmuted, so you can contribute as you need. But and I'll typically call out to you as we go through some questions, just so everybody has a chance to speak up. If you have a thought, please feel free to raise your hand or jump in if it's appropriate. But obviously, let's make sure everybody's thoughts are heard. Time is valuable. If I do push a little bit, it's because we are running out of time. We only have an hour, and I have about 5 or 6 questions that we'll discuss. Just want to make sure we have enough time to talk about everything. Do encourage everybody to stay connected. I mean, it's obviously camera on is a little bit more interactive, but at least mic and making sure that you're collaborating in there. We do record the session, and I share the recording back with everybody. If there's anybody who does not, and actually when we send the typically by tomorrow or so, we'll send out a recap of the conversation, some bullet points, some takeaways, and in that we share sort of the LinkedIn contact for everybody. So if you don't want that to be shared, please just drop me a note after this, and I'll make sure that it's not being distributed to everybody. So today's agenda, and I'm not going to keep the slide on, but just to kind of give you all a heads up, I'll make sure we'll come back to the camera so we can all be engaging. But for today's agenda, what we're going to talk a little bit about, and it's sort of a variation to the question you see, but that's the general flow will be is what is your highest priority? So as we do introductions, you'll have a chance maybe to talk just for a couple minutes about at your institution, what's your highest priority and how did it become your highest priority now? Where is AI adoption or innovation coming from? Is it bottom up? Is the new people coming in? Is it top down from leadership? Now I'm hearing more and more boards are driving it. So where's this innovation being pushed from? And if AI could significantly impact one area of your consumer journey, your member journey, your customer journey, how would you prioritize awareness and education? So how would you make sure that would it be awareness? Would it be onboarding? Would it be product suite selection? AI is now touching many organizations, many parts of the organization. So how are you determining what you're going to prioritize? And then the last couple of questions, a little bit around the pros and cons, the value, how do you measure the ROI? What do you determine as a successful engagement? And how are you looking out future of the impact AI might have in your organization. So what is enough? What does enough really mean? And obviously, if there's any questions that you all want to add in and you want to hear from the group, I'm more than happy to feel free to jump in and sort of add your questions along the way too. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and we'll jump right into conversations. Just for the introductions for the first round, I will call on folks just as I go through the screen. So introduce yourself and just talk about maybe what you do at your organization and why and how AI is a priority today for you. So Jordan, you're first on my screen, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to call on you to say and introduce yourself and tell us about what you're doing at the organization.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jordan Miller. I'm the chairman and CEO of Adelphi Bank, Central Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. We're 3 years into the process of forming the bank. So founder of the bank and been in business just 3 years now, just coming out of our de novo period. We're not really doing much with AI right now. I came on out of curiosity. We do have policies and we're in the process of just educating our staff on some basic things, how to use it and what not to use it for. But the plan is to use it for some of our commercial processing, trying to streamline some of the workflows that we have and some of the customer service issues that we're currently facing. But really just here to learn and to understand what other banks are doing and how we might, how we might start to take the dive. So that's kind of where we are today.
Thank you very much. It's kind of interesting because we work with another bank that's very young bank. It's a couple of years in. I think they're 3 years in as well. And one of the discussions was around, well, they don't carry the baggage of a lot of heavy systems from the legacy systems, I guess. It's a lot of decisions are being made new and fresh. So the hope is that obviously that new innovation is coming in faster. But we'll hear more about that as we go along. Royce, you're up next.
Thanks, Karan. Thanks for having me here. So I'm currently looking for my next opportunity. Most recently, I was a SVP, Chief Marketing Officer for a credit union here in Southern California. Couple of different priorities. So the marketing team, we were fully AI enabled. So we're using it for content. We're using it for creative development. So we had it up and running. From the organizational standpoint, the thing that I was actively pushing for was an AI knowledge base, where we had some fun examples where if you haven't done it, go to it, try it. Ask your branch managers, ask them to just ask their team 5 questions that they want to know process-wise, and I curated those questions. And I had this session with retail and ops, and I said one of the questions from the branches were, why did we have to wait for a member to be 21 before we give them a credit card? All the executive leadership said, we don't have to wait until we're 21. I literally put that into my test AI knowledge base, and it says the reason that you have to wait is laundry list, and then here's the policy. So our executive team didn't even know that it was a policy, and so having that AI knowledge base was very much something that was eye-opening.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing a lot just across the industry about adoption or knowledge bases has become a big part of sort of AI, sort of use cases out there. Eric, good to see you again. How are you? Go ahead.
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Very good. Very good.
Good. So I am Eric Fry. I am with Notre Dame Federal Credit Union in South Bend, Indiana. I run operations and mainly on the side of a number of our QSOs. So as far as the AI goes for us, I think we kind of jumped in all at once and we're kind of learning what that means, but we took a very risk-averse profile. So since the last time we talked, our policies are all in place, but we now have 2 different AI systems, one for the entire credit union base, and then another one that is the ChatGPT Enterprise that we're doing a lot more internally with. And kind of guess we can talk about that as we get further along.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear about that. Doug, good to see you. Please feel free to introduce and maybe talk a little bit about what you're doing at the credit union and a little bit perhaps in terms of an AI initiative that you have underway.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Doug Skiba. I'm the CTO for Northwest Federal Credit Union. We're a $4.7 billion credit union based in Northern Virginia. I think like the gentleman that just spoke before me, we've got all of our kind of compliance policies in place, right? We've got acceptable use, we've got data classification. I've got kind of an AI principles document, and we're working on kind of a formal AI strategy in terms of where we've got it deployed today. Like a lot of credit unions, we've got what I call external AI or AI out of the box with like Copilot for Business, and that's being used by a good percentage of our at least knowledge worker employees. We've got it with Salesforce with a next best action capability that we're also in a pilot mode. One of the strategies I would say is we're looking to leverage capabilities that are AI enabled within third-party products before we go off and build our own. I've got at least architecturally a design for an orchestration layer that we'll use with Azure. As a stepping stone to that, we're getting Copilot for GitHub in place so that developers can be more productive with it. I'm kind of doing that basic upskilling in my development team so that they understand agentic, and we're asking them to do kind of proof of concepts with things like MCP, things like that. Projects that we're looking at for next year is around AI knowledge base. So this would be kind of departmental knowledge bots. I'd like to scale that to the enterprise, but I think a prerequisite for that is really a little more robust data governance. So we're looking at how do we put sensitivity labels on our content? How do we put rules in place to sort of map it into the data classification scheme? How do we have DLP, right? So we're trying to avoid creating something that becomes the most efficient data exfiltration tool that hackers could get a hold of, right? So we really want to make sure our data is in place soundly before we light that up. And then beyond that, we've got some departmental goals next year for things like credit underwriting for our consumer lines of business, using some AI embedded capabilities with third-party products to help automate that. I'm looking at doing some like behavioral analytics for our digital members that have kind of tracks their user patterns, like the mouse movement and the keystrokes, and then detects anomalous behaviors for that product called BioCatch. That's going into production. So there's a whole host of things that we're working on individually, but collectively we're kind of trying to drive more and more toward AI wherever we can.
Yeah, if you could use AI to help our commanders win a little bit, I mean, that might be. I think it's find a way to do that.
Yeah, Doug, we lost your audio there for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I could hear you. I could hear you all the way, actually, Joe.
Okay.
Andrea, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Karan. Thanks for having me. I'm Andrea Resnack. I work Chief Strategy Officer at Member Access Processing, we're QSO. And I would say, like similar to what I've heard from the folks that have spoke so far, from Roy and Doug, we're using AI in different frames. So we're using it in the data analytics world. We're definitely using it in the partnership with Karan's company, with Aivantage. We've used it for doing some bot and first and doing some data analytics specific development for our credit unions. We're also using it. We have Copilot for Business turned on for most of our employees, and we use that in a couple of different ways. We use it not only from obviously a transcription and take notes, but also to use it when we're doing PowerPoint. We're looking at other partners and providers in the market from competitive intel. We can actually put all that into a PowerPoint, do a lot of that work that you would be manually just going through websites and doing development review. And we're actually pulling those into ours and saying, okay, let's do a side-by-side comparison of what we're looking at, what we might not have thought of yet. So we've been using it in different works. We're also using it from a product management standpoint of really taking that knowledge management tool and really pulling it out of Salesforce and saying, okay, here's all the information we gave you, do an update. And so that it's not one person that was doing that before, we're actually doing it through automations that are being done at night. So I think there's a lot of use cases for it. It's just a matter of, do you have the staff that want to get involved? Do you have the priorities written and also compliance, right, of what we can release and can't release from a payments perspective?
Thank you. Just having worked with MAP, I know that, I mean, of all the, a lot of our clients, y'all are definitely one of the most sort of forward-looking in terms of how you're looking to embed AI into the organization. And just, Doug, one of the things, just kind of before I move on, is I was thinking back to, I know Royce was talking a little bit about his example with the search capability. That might be an interesting matchup as y'all look to get in that. Next on my list is, and I'm going to say, is it Chase?
It is Chase. It
Yep.
is Chase. And good to meet you guys. My name is Chase Green. I'm a commercial lending VP here in Columbus, Ohio at Savista Bank. And to answer the question that's going around, pretty much our look for AI is how do we create additional efficiencies between our two channels, specifically us on the front end that are producers and then our back end folks. Obviously, a lot of that efficiency as we look at time to get deals to and from is based upon manpower. And as a smaller institution, that manpower obstacle that we have, we're looking to use AI and different tool and that as a tool to kind of help us out with that and creating that efficiency. We have full access to co-work, Microsoft 365, and it allows us to access various different things. I think there was a question about being able to access policy. We have that capability. We're able to access previous deals that are done to be able to do comparisons. So there's a wealth of capability that we have, but it's pretty new to us. So we don't have standard operating procedures and marching orders as far as that's concerned. And really, we're just trying to pin down those things so that we have something that is dependable from that standpoint. So.
Very nice. Sanjay.
Thanks, Karan. Good to meet everyone. Sanjay Bhaskar. I'm a strategic advisor to AI Vantage, but also am the vice president of partner sales at Connective. So use AI in multiple different ways in what we do. So my team at Connective sells to fintech partnerships, but we're using AI from a global standpoint, everything from meeting prep, policy to reviews. I mean, you name it, we've kind of plugged in all our systems into the platform that we use for AI today to be able to pull those out. And the efficiencies that you're starting to see are amazing just in terms of even getting ready. As you may see from your teams, I have a client or member meeting coming up. How do I kind of run a process to know exactly what they need? And then seeing it from the point of AI Vantage, which is better engagement. So how do I use AI and tools that are out there and things I already know about my customers or members to create better engagement? So Chase, as I think about your situation, like on the commercial lending side, we want to grow our portfolio. Who are the right target customers that we can do? These are data points that we already have, but it's not always easy to dig them out one-on-one or have the individual conversation. So how can I use that data to create a campaign or a workflow that says, let's start reaching out to these folks. We know they need our help. So I think there's many different applications that can be highly effective for institutions that can really transform the way you do business and make your teams a lot more effective. I think that's one of the biggest things I've found is how do I make my teams more effective? We've been talking recently to a bank says I want more of a sales culture, but I don't know how to convince people to pick up the phone. I said, well, you could use some AI to actually drive opportunity, and then it's not as much forcing them to pick up the phone as they're just servicing the members or customers that come in.
Well, and that's kind of interesting because I think there's a big share. I mean, the sales culture coming back, and I mean, with digital channels, it's made it really interesting. And I think AI is definitely a big part of sort of how that transition's happening now, more and more so. Michael, nice to have you online. We're just doing introductions and it's a sense of sort of how at your credit union you're using AI or what you might be doing in that capacity now.
Well, we've come a ways since the last time you had one of these meetings. We were just kind of exploratory. We've actually gone ahead and we've got with our IT folks have got together. We're putting in controls to be more aggressive about bringing it in for use by our staff. We have policies and procedures that are underway to limit usage and what type of usage and how much usage. Currently, there's only a handful of people, myself included, who've used it. I actually have done it for policy, procedure, and most recently a pretty robust internal control guide that I could have written from scratch. It would have probably taken me, a month, but I got through it in a matter of about a week. With I still had to do writing, but it was able to do a lot of the framework and groundwork that I needed to get that project done in a relatively short period of time. In our next year, we're looking to have the policies and procedures in place so that we are going to take our automated decision-making platform and incorporate AI into it to try and enhance the effectiveness. We see that we're competitively disadvantaged against fintechs in the way they do business, in their speed and their ability to make decisions. And I think we see that AI is going to be an opportunity to improve our automated decision-making process so that we can be a little more aggressive and get a little more success in competing against a lot bigger entities that are using, that are out there in the market for online decisioning and online lending.
Yeah, I think I remember from one of the first conversations. And by the way, interestingly, so this is, like I said, been happening for about the last 18 months or a little bit longer. At the first round, it was like a lot of folks, and we're not even talking 2 years, less than 2 years. It was, do I have a policy in place? I wonder what the rules are going to be from, whether that's the Fed or NCUA. And also, it was very early dabbling. And now I'd say 90% of the organizations that hop on and we have these calls, it's every 2 months, is very much a Copilot test case where everybody's sort of testing either Copilot or ChatGPT, some kind of a corporate use of these tools and using that. So efficiency is coming in and the use case are expanding. There's still, I think I was reading something like 3% of financial services organizations are enterprise-wide AI. So as an industry, we still have a long, and there's probably Chase. They probably make up 3% or more. So we still have a long way to go. But everybody, more than 90% are actually starting to do something with it. And so with that, I kind of move a little bit into the next question. And I'm just going to pick on maybe Chase and Doug, perhaps you, Royce, to ask this question is, in your organizations, where do you see this AI innovation and ideation coming from? Is it, again, is it bottom up, new entrants into the organization? Is it being pushed by the board to perhaps leadership that's still trying to figure it out? I mean, so how is it, where's this coming from? And Chase, I'll just start with you first.
Yeah, it's encouraged from C-suite down. So it's when we have monthly meetings, when we have everyone in front of each other, it's a conversation of best practices that we've uncovered, different ways to actually utilize the tool for, our mutual benefit. And we try to keep that forum open so that we're not, redoubling our efforts and we can actually move forward as opposed to spinning our wheels with, the tool that we have. So it's top down.
Yeah. Doug, how about you on your side?
It's definitely not being driven by the board. I mean, the board wants education about it, but they're not giving us any mandates. So I think I'm trying to drive a lot of it myself. And but my peers in the executive team are open to it, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily rushing to try to move their teams in that direction. And so I'm also trying to build a little bit of a grassroots enthusiasm around it. So we've done some AI literacy work. We've done some employee surveys. I'm really trying to find those true believers within the organization that can help drive it from the bottom up. And hopefully with that and the top down, we can kind of get better buy-in to it. Because I'm afraid if it's just going to be top down driven, then everybody's going to be, oh, you're just trying to take my job away kind of reaction. And really it needs to have much more of a, this is here to make your life better and support you and not just displace you.
Yeah. Oh, I think I did lose the audio. Royce, Doug, I think you're back now. Royce, I'll pass it on to you and ask. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great question. So for us and from what I've seen, it's really specific functions are driving it with executive level support. There's got to be a willingness there to enforce it, but the use cases are the ones that are driving whether or not AI gets adopted. One distinction I do want to, again, I don't know if it's industry-wide, but it's in my mind, is separating out what I call or they call the consumer AI. So the chat GPTs, the Copilots, the Geminis, that's out there. But at this point of the game, for me, that's like advanced spell check. So when you start talking about the agentic stuff, when you start talking about the underwriting stuff, that's the advanced AI that's driving the use cases. All the consumer stuff, I mean, I think the 3%, I saw a study that said 30%. It's probably higher because they're just doing it here and not telling you whether or not you have a policy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the 3% was enterprise wide as an organization, like, many, it's operating on sort of many cylinders. So I think it was a little different versus a lot of test cases. I think a lot of organizations, and most, like I said, 90 plus are testing it. So there's some capacity, some use there, but this is across most departments. And I think we're all headed in that direction. I still remember some of the conversations around early data. When I would talk about data, we'd have all these CEOs in the room, eyes light up for about 2 minutes, and then be like, well, I don't know if I can do this. It just sounds daunting. I didn't have a data policy. Then you got cloud. And everybody was like, oh man, I'm never going to go to the cloud. This is the worst thing ever. And now I can guarantee you every single person out here has something related to the cloud going on. So we're not, it's the next step of innovation perhaps that's happening. I'll move to the next question. And Jordan, I'll start with you, and maybe Andrea, you and Eric on this one. Just, you know, I'm thinking if there's one stage as a new, especially for Jordan, you as a new bank coming in, if you start thinking about this one area that I think AI could really help us in on the customer journey side of it, like whether that's new customer sales, product decisions, data monitoring, any and all things. Have you thought about, well, this would be like when you sit around and think, this would be a great area that I could start thinking about having a pretty big impact?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Most of our business is commercial underwriting.
Yeah.
We see a lot of commercial real estate. And we see, we dabble and dabble with the consumer. We do a lot of stuff there, but mostly helping underserved consumers that don't have a lot of means. But the bulk of our revenue and the bulk of our balance sheet is driven by commercial lending, and commercial product sales, treasury management, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's the area we need more efficiency. The time it takes to get from start to finish on a commercial loan, to give a customer an answer is too long. And then some of the smaller deals we do, I think there's a lot of automation that we could apply there. Probably never get rid of the total person in the deal, but just efficiencies around underwriting and speed to market. And then for a lot of the consumer stuff we do, like the auto loans that we do, we got to get faster. It's sitting on somebody's desk. Somebody's at an auto dealer, and the deal comes in, it's sitting on somebody's desk, and by the time we get to it, they're already out, they're already gone. So I would say that's one of the biggest areas for us, especially growing. We could easily staff up a lot more, and I think we can prevent doing a lot of that in this early stage. We probably have too many people in our credit underwriting team right now, but that's where we're at, and we have some very bright associates in our credit underwriting as well as in the rest of our team that they could pick a lot of this stuff up. They're using it for mostly co-pilot and those kind of functions. But yeah, that's where we think we can gain a lot of advantage.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the Copilot uses, and in general, I think organizational wise, so like ChatGPT or Copilot is around efficiency plays. So it's about making your originators work more efficiently, make sure the processes are right, reaching out to the customers on time. At least with the commercial loans too, you got to make sure that you're following through on the process. It's not a quick and easy process.
Yes.
Yeah. Andrea, I'll pass it over to you. Sort of when you think about lifestyle. Sorry?
So ironically, myself and our data analysts were looking at some reports yesterday, some Power BI reports, and we both kind of saw the same thing on the trending. We said this credit union suddenly having like a trend with their authorizations compared to their peer group is just dropping quite a bit. And I said, can you pull their fraud reports and just see like when's the last time they changed their strategies, done any rules change? And he goes, I can tell right now that they haven't done anything in probably a year or two. And so these members are now we all know if you're in the line and you get your card declined, what are you going to do? You're going to try it a couple more times and you're going to move cards. Well, if that behavior continues, then when you go to digital issuance, you're going to move that other card to top of wallet. And then that card now just became lower. And so this is a smaller credit union. So that really impacts their interchange. It really impacts the member experience. And so what I said to him was, we need to bring all this forward, and we probably need to run like a manual report behind them so that their card manager can look at this on a weekly basis and see, proactively reaching out like, hey, I've noticed your card's been declined a couple times. We need to change your rule strategy, whatever they need to do that fits their policies, but being that proactive member experience to make sure that it's better and then gets that card back up top of wallet. And I think if we didn't have the data at our fingertips and could easily pull those type of things before, It's more the reactionary of like, okay, why is my interchange down? Why is my card not top of wallet? Now we can actually dig in and say, here's some of the things you did, but you're also affecting our false positives too, because your structure is just so stringent that it's actually impacting your members probably more than you realize. And so that was an easier conversation with that credit union to actually pull that and say, let's make this a positive member experience and let's see what we can do to change. And that we're still going to be within your risk tolerance, but we're not going to be losing those members wanting to use your card.
And I think with AI, you could probably start delivering that kind of feedback a lot faster too. And bringing that in. Eric, I will come to you just because I know I called out, but Sanjay, just I know you said you had to drop, but I just want to ask Eric this question, and then I do want to ask you just one more thing before you do go. Eric, what are your thoughts on sort of life stage of a consumer journey? If Notre Dame Credit Union had to think about one area where you think you might have the biggest impact, or maybe two if you're thinking about something very actively. Go ahead.
Well, I think the big thing for us is, although we're looking at it from a consumer standpoint, it's less the AI features for a consumer itself. It goes back to what I think most people are talking about. It's efficiencies, it's speeding up processes. It is how do we deliver what we're looking for more readily and make it just a simpler process for the consumer side of things. I look at it with us, one of the board that, when we go back to how the board looks at it, we just met at a retreat. The board's only rule for us was you are not going to lose headcount. So if that means we're moving someone somewhere else, great. Okay. For us, it's how do we deliver things faster? It's never going to replace our people. It's going to supercharge them in a way that we say, hey, we want that individual touch with our employees and our members. So how do we make that work? One of the things that I just recently looked at, and I think we're kind of on the cutting edge when it comes to our data and how we analyze it, but we're trying to go to a more distributed leadership structure. So departments are going to run things versus it come down from the executive team. They're just going to say, hey, roll with it, come up with ideas. You guys know what's going on. But one of the things I'm trying to put together right now is a connection for that distributed model. So if I know this particular division is doing one thing, maybe another division needs some of that information or is using it in a different way. And now they're going to be able to communicate through the chat, being able to tell them, hey, you're both working on this in different ways. So that so it's not just, hey, you're in your own little silo. Guess what? You've got some opportunity over here that's already being worked on so that you can do it together, which is a really kind of different thought process than we've had in the past.
It's like ongoing monitoring and real-time tracking of sort of activities. Michael, I know you raised your hand there. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I've had an interesting thought as I've watched my marketing director work with AI. I see it as we are not large enough yet to have like an MCIF or have any type of targeted marketing campaign, but I see that there's a potential when you talk about member experience, how to get AI to customize marketing campaigns based on current relationship and what's the most likely needed product or service that they could be looking for based on the available information that AI can generate or garner for us, so that we're not just throwing out blankets of one type of marketing campaign after another, that we're actually creating customizable marketing, again, based on relationship. And I'm really intrigued to see if that, one, am I way ahead of myself in thinking of the capability? And two, if I'm not, it would be great to see how we can get that, working with our marketing director so that she can efficiently and effectively use the limited resources she has for marketing to our members.
It's almost, and so it's almost like you're literally calling out the product that we built. So I will come back to you on that. But I did have a question that I want to pose back to Sanjay, you, and then Doug, just because I think it ties a little bit into this. Because one thing that's been interesting is that, there you go. Somebody said, who wrote that? Was that you, Doug? Or Royce?
Eric. No, that was me.
Yeah, Eric. So the question I had was around a little bit about Michael, you'll have an organization that's moved from almost very little to fast adopter. Sanjay, you're at Connective, you're very actively using AI, and obviously, Doug, you'll sort of have started using, you got a lot of use cases. So, Sanjay, I'll start with you. What are some of the cons? Like, what's the difficulties or what are the challenges you've had? And do you have a pause? And is there a pause there in any way saying, listen, I need to rethink certain things around it? Or how do you make it better when you think about organizational wide? At least the way you all are
Yeah.
using AI, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, you just have to be careful because the outputs are not always perfect. So you do have to make sure that you are looking at what comes out of that. Is it the right information based on what you know? Hopefully, as it trains itself over time, it gets more efficient. But then also making sure that you are putting all the information in that you need. So, from an organization standpoint, have we given it access to all the things that we need to pull from to make the most accurate kind of decision or bring back the most accurate information? But I think the biggest drawback early on has just been, making sure that the information's correct or it's kind of conveying the right tone and things that you want to come out of that. So I think, as you're getting started with it, you'll have to kind of look at that and sure it'll get better over time, but it's a process. So just know that if you're kind of early, it's the old trust but verify, let's see what's going on.
Yeah,
Let's
there's
make
a
sure that
training
we
aspect to it, right?
understand what's going on there. So I think that, but I think it just in terms of the way it speeds it up, and I think you think about how quickly you can produce things now. It's a game changer for your organization and your folks, and so getting them to use it in a way that says, I'm going to free up potentially hours of your week on things that you might have spent mundane time doing, and now you can do it quicker with AI. It's a real game changer. I do have to drop, but thanks all. I'm going to listen to the rest of the call, but I really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Sanjay. I was thinking about, and Michael, before I pass it on to you, is take this and perhaps even the last few roundtables and put that into our sort of in a secure AI and by LLM and ask for feedback on how to make the conversations more interactive and engaging. What are the learnings? How we should reposition the questions. So I think it's kind of like like I think Eric, you were saying is like it's taken a lot of time and now it's made you a lot more efficient. Don't have to reduce headcount. Just find a way to do a lot more with what you're doing. We started changing the way we hire too, based on how much AI use people have either been exposed to or how much we're bringing into roles. So, Michael, I'll pass it back to you because I know you've gone from very early stage to not quite fully mature, but like you're using it and starting to get used more at the credit union. What has been some of the pros or cons that you run into?
Well, right now, our biggest, and that's part of our policies development challenges. There is so much data that can get out into the AI that we're definitely wanting to make sure that our processes, limit what goes out and who we use that can help us limit that exposure of personal data. I mean, we've had some major data breaches recently. We're experiencing one with one of our vendors right now that's causing all kinds of havoc for within the credit union industry. And, we don't want to see AI be a problem with data compromising about, personal information about our members. So that's one of our major sticking points right now that everybody is really, really trying to stay focused about the excitement, but then understanding that whatever we do can't put us at risk that we're all of a sudden out there with all our member data is just out and about everywhere. First and foremost, that's like I said, that everything else pales in comparison is what might be a concern right now.
Yeah, I think data security will always, at least in the visible future, be a cause of concern and just caution. Royce, you raised your hand. I'll ask you and I'll come back to you, Doug. Then we'll kind of go around for the last round of questions, folks. Royce, go ahead.
Just unpopular opinion and just thinking out loud, because I mean, Michael, you just talked about it. We are so risk averse with data, and I 100% agree with that. But in your own comment, everybody's already been compromised. I mean, I think there's 8 billion socials out there. So, and I remember being up at Visa not too long ago, and they were showing me their fraud tools and what they were doing to do fraud prevention. But the message that came through was the bad guys, the bad actors are using AI. They have no governors, and we're trying to protect stuff that's already out there. Like, how much do we hurt ourselves in innovation by keeping all the safeguards up when the reality is everything's already out there. I mean, everybody's social is out there, everybody's income, phone numbers, date of birth, mother's maiden name, account numbers. It's all out there. I'm not saying that we should just have zero governance, but the question is like, what does that look like today? Or what should it look like, I guess?
I don't know, Doug, Michael or Doug, do you want to take a stab at that?
I have a great thought. I have a great thought about that, and I don't disagree with your assessment. The data is everywhere. I get that, but there very famously, Andre Agassi once said, "Perception is reality." So I think we have a duty of care that the perception is we are doing everything we can to protect the data. We may not succeed, and we may have problems and issues with that. I fully acknowledge and understand that, but we could never not abandon the effort to let our customers that as we can to keep it as protected as we can. I know that may not be a sufficient answer or response, but it seems to me that it's the best one we can have if we want to retain customer support and customer loyalty.
Yeah, I know. Doug, you're on mute. You're gonna unmute there, but
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me now.
Yeah, we can.
Come back. So there were a couple questions you had, so maybe make sure I'm going to answer the right one.
Well, the one was just around y'all are active users.
Right.
What's been the pros and cons, sort of journey, challenge along the way?
Okay.
And then I know we talked. There was this the question around how much should you care about security and protocol and regulation? Is it hurting innovation?
Yeah. So I think security is part and parcel to everything we do here. It's part of our DNA, and it's always going to be first and foremost. It took me longer to get Copilot for GitHub installed than I thought it should, just because we had to make sure that it was going to be clean and wasn't going to have PII data leakage, and we weren't going to have secrets stored in it. So we've done that. I think that's the right way to go. I've challenged my information security team to figure out ways that we can increase the cadence of these things, and maybe just kind of get in front of it for the future. But I think the bigger thing here at this point is I have a bit of lack of confidence in the general staff to embrace AI. So there really is, I think, some general training that we have to do to get people to really buy into it. We're still not quite sure that our members are fully going to embrace it. Credit unions tend to skew older in terms of demographic. Ours in particular skew older, and also we service a lot of the intelligence agency community, so they're skeptical about technology to begin with. So I think the bar is pretty high in terms of giving our members confidence and comfort in what we're providing to them is going to be secure and keep their data secure. So I think that's just going to be a general challenge for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of studies, more and more, about even as the younger generation enters the banking area, about their expectations around trust and maintenance of data. They're willing to rely. In fact, Eric, this is kind of supports you. What's something you said is I think that I read somewhere, it was a Harvard study. This seems like what I do all the time is reading these studies now. But Harvard study said 80% of folks don't mind if AI is helping them with finance, as long as they know there's a human behind the scenes. So they're willing to put the trust in. So when I'm only willing to put trust, you expect a certain sense of protection and security. The other one, a part of their protection, is the fact that there's somebody at the back end should they need to call someone. Chase, I'm going to ask you, and then maybe pass it to you, Eric and Andrea. Overestimating. The question really was around, so is in any areas you might be over or underestimating the impact AI might have, but you can take it a little bit broader than that. Are you doing enough with AI, and what does that look like? What does the next, say, year or so look like for you?
I think it's really we're in an exploratory phase. That's probably the best way to describe it right now.
Yeah.
In doing so, you have to kind of test what it is and reverse engineer what it is that you've learned after you've taken a little bit of time to utilize it, to figure out where the most advantageous applications will be. We know that it's within credit processing and being able to help with the collection, because a lot of that time spent going to and from a client, and this is being on the ground floor and being client facing, is we need X, Y, and Z to get something to credit so that they can effectively do their job. That collection process is one of the things that we're looking at ways to be more efficient, utilizing the AI tool. That's how I've worked with my credit team to be able to figure that out, my associate, and then my administrative assistant that supports me. So it's really trying to figure out where we have low-hanging fruit to be able to apply it so that we can then take that manpower and then get them to do different things. I think one of the other gentlemen echoed that they're not looking to reduce headcount. And our mandate is not that we're looking to reduce headcount, it's that we're looking to be efficient. So it's really just looking at that, taking an autopsy after we've utilized it for a while, and then figuring out where we can go from there.
We're not looking at headcount reductions either, but I think we are just, again, brutal truth is that we are looking at our hiring differently. We're looking at hiring differently. So, while we originally had for this quarter that we were going to hire 3 developers, we've now scaled it down to 1, and we're trying to see, well, we might still hire a second one because we're still into the quarter, but we've scaled it down to 1 right now and saying, listen, can we bring more AI tools for efficiency and, coding with Claude and those kind of things too. So, Andrea, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we used it for yesterday was we had done an interview with a candidate for a VP position, and the leadership team was, someone that we've talked to before, but we still had some questions. And so after the interview, we sent our notes through Teams, and then we went through and put it through Copilot and said, what are the next questions we should ask for the second round of interview? And what are the themes that you caught from the conversation based on the notes? And so it was really interesting what it brought back, because it kind of, we had a bias on one thing and we realized we were missing something else. And so that helps us for the next round of with an internal candidate today. And it was like, okay, why weren't we already doing this? But it's practical use cases and using them to our advantage.
My son, my second son's just gone off to university, and about a year ago, I was sitting with him, and every kid's using AI for their homework right now. So I caught him using AI for his homework, and I said, well, dude, you got to be careful about this. First of all, I used to say don't use it at all. Now I'm like, be careful about the use. And he said, well, my teacher checks it. And so I'm thinking about this interview example of yours is how far are we from somebody having a headphone and the interviewer? Sure. And then I'm like, well, should the candidate have one too? Like, what is the right answer? Is, like, should we be allowing it on both sides? It's really interesting because we do that on the call center side. Call center, and Eric, maybe you can talk. I know you said you guys are using a lot and across the board, and you have QSO investments. But on the call center side also, people have, there's real-time recordings that are tracking sentiment, that are tracking words, that are telling you that cross-sell opportunities and should when to escalate, when not to escalate, etc. Will they pay on collections? They're doing all of this sort of in real time. So, Eric, I don't know how your thoughts are overestimating, underestimating, and maybe bring in a practical something like this that you might be using on your side.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things that we are probably shifting to the fact that we are underestimating the potential. And part of that is, to kind of give you an example, I had 3 interns this summer. They all just literally finished last week to go back to college. And part of the thing that we looked at, I had them try to use AI to find revenue generating opportunities for us that we were just missing. Just say, hey, go out and what could there be that we haven't looked at in a while? And honestly, 2 things came up, but one that was a little surprising wasn't an opportunity, but it was something that came up that might be a money saver for us in the future. So the 3 big things that came up for us, one, we reviewed the credit union's insurance for its own policies, right? And we found out that there were multiple things that were missing, multiple things that weren't covered, especially under AI, that we said, boy, we need to go back and we need to have our insurer let us rewrite the policy and give it to them and allow them to approve our changes to the policy, which we think is going to potentially cover us in case something does happen. We talked about the side of, hey, the information's out there. Well, it's still going to be out there. It's going to be lost. So how do we protect ourselves on the back end? So that was something we saw. Another thing we saw was contracts. We submitted multiple contracts that we had for vendors across the spectrum through AI with what we were doing, what they were offering, what was there, and we renegotiated contracts, and we saved money, a substantial amount from just doing that. The last thing we did, I know we have a QSO that handles warranty stuff, but we started taking contracts from warranties. We started taking claims from members. We started cross-referencing it with our data vault, and we started finding areas that between us and existing warranty companies that money is being lost because of certain activities that are just part of the administration of it. And we can now go in and point to exactly itemized things that we can force change on from administrators to generate additional income for us, just because we can now have that data and know what to look for and what to ask for. So it's interesting that it's helping us find things that we wouldn't have even considered looking for before.
Yeah, yeah. So clearly underestimating. Just given that we're into the last 10 minutes, what I want to do is just kind of pass back any sort of thoughts, final, question that you might have for the group, a point you might want to make. And I know we've got a lot of sort of different stages of adoption with AI here, as well as different examples. And Jordan, started with you, so I'll start back with you this time around. Any questions for the group? Anything that you want to talk about, or just kind of what your views are on AI in the future for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a lot of things, but I would just ask the group, if you're a new bank and just getting started, how would you look at it and where would you start?
Anybody there?
I think you have an opportunity to be AI first in everything if you're that new. I mean, do you have an advantage over an incumbent bank that's been doing it for years, that has a legacy of technology? You could say, I'm going to be AI first in everything, and how far can I take it? I think that's a really exciting place to be.
Yeah, and I would add to that. I think there's a misnomer. It's like technology was going to replace relationships, and I know community banks are built on relationships, especially in the commercial banking space. Um, it's thinking about ways that AI could enhance and help you be better with those relationships. Maybe there's customer trigger data that you can have AI models running on that in a moment. Customers do, because most of the customers are probably banking elsewhere, have relationships as well. It's not the only relationship they have. So can you use data to identify, signals that they might need a product, or they might be actually doing some kind of different transactions, whether it's treasury, employee cards, payroll, X, Y, and Z that they might be doing, or even for process optimization. I mean, you're giving a commercial loan, like you said, a lot of times that comes with bringing in the banking relationship, and did they fund it? That's a big thing, as you know. I mean, once the loan's gone, that fund's not coming in. So, can you find ways to bring in certain commercial aspects to that particular relationship? We're seeing that. Those are some of the reason I mentioned those 2, 3. Those are some of the use cases that we're actually building out with that other institution I was telling you. So, I know there's AI coming in there, and I think it's coming in ways that you can use to enhance those relationships rather than, have technology take it over. Doug, since you chimed in there, I'm going to pass it back to you and say, what are your sort of thoughts on parting thought, or just kind of any questions you might have for the group, or anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of folks are going to be reliant upon third parties to bring AI embedded into existing products and services. I think right now what I see is the platform providers that we have, things like Salesforce and ServiceNow and Microsoft, we're all trying to become my orchestration layer. And I really right now want like just very use case specific capabilities that I want to implement with quick wins. I don't want to have to build a dependency for orchestrating everything across what I don't know I'm going to automate yet or in the future. And then I just think getting everybody in your organization to generate excitement and knowledge around AI and really lean into the change management that's going to be required to get a legacy workforce to adopt a new technology is an area that I'm going to spend a lot of time in next year.
Yeah, every partner, it's like now, there was a while where even your core provider, if you were thinking of doing a bank core change or whatever, you add it in a section around analytics. Did they bring analytics in there? Now I think that section has evolved into like the next phase is do you bring AI into it? So there's definitely every provider. I mean, we use QuickBooks for our basic accounting here, and they have a little AI section on the top there too. So like everybody's embedding it, and that's a quick way to start dabbling with some of that too. Chase, I'll pass it to you. Coming up, thoughts on a question for the group, a summary, just a thought to add.
Yeah, really, it was just good to be on with like-minded folks. You guys are from different disciplines of banking, just to hear different issues that are there. It just opens your mind up to the different applications that there are for AI. To Jordan's point, it would boil me if there was known opportunities that we missed just simply because we weren't able to be quick enough to get to the deal. So you asked that question, if there was some way to circumvent that to, create some sort of process flow that people are able to send those things in so they can be decisioned a little bit quicker, that would probably be where I would focus my attention. But really, it was just good to have you guys. I appreciate you having me, Karan. Been looking forward to hearing where you guys go from here.
Lovely. Royce.
Yeah, so I was just listening to Chase and Jordan. A friend of mine's a professor at a college, and he runs internship groups. And one of his teams actually built for a commercial bank as their project an ingestion layer. And I know very little about commercial banking, so maybe you guys already have this. But basically, they just took every piece of documentation and dumped it basically into a folder. So it's income, it's cash flows, it's contracts, it's everything. And then the AI layer parsed everything out. So it had the bones of a deal for your credit underwriters. And then they got it to a working prototype, and the bank ended up wanting to finish it internally and not have the team do it. But it seems like those kinds of opportunities would be powerful. And then to Jordan, if I were a new bank, what I would use AI for is to look for the white space, because we don't know. So let it go hunting for you. Let it search your market. Let it search your competitors, and it'll and use it as a thought partner, because it'll help you identify what other people aren't doing, what micro markets are being missed, or where the opportunities are potentially. And then my last thought, Karan, you're talking about what prevents like mass adoption, and I think the real problem is like the people, like everybody on this call is obviously different. It's self-selected. You guys are curious. You're using it. You're thinking about it. You want to play with it. I would argue that most employees in the workforce aren't that. So they want to be taught how to use AI. They want to be told what to do with it. The problem is we don't really know because we're still playing with it. So you can't teach a process when you haven't developed it yet. So it's either get faster on developing it and get it out there, or just find more like-minded people and keep banging rocks together.
It's kind of like Doug was saying, trust a lot of the employees' sort of AI skills yet. I mean, we're still sort of figuring this out. In the spirit of sharing, though, I will say, and I'll come to you, Andrew, Eric, and Michael, but in the spirit of sharing, there's been talk about compliance. If anybody has a policy or something that they want to share, I know that's something I've heard a lot of credit unions are looking for. Not saying if it's secret to you or if it's your secret sauce, do it. But if it's something to share, I will share it back with this group as well. If there's documents or the compliance policies or something in place that are not proprietary to you. Andrea, parting thoughts? Are you anything you want to share?
It was great to be here today and listen to all the different perspectives of how you all are using AI. And I think the one common thread I keep hearing is use cases and what's the business case you're trying to solve. And so for each person in each department, it's going to be different. But that's one thing we keep looking at is where do we have deficiencies that we need to fix and where can we create synergies so that we can free up folks to do other things that are really focused in the member experience area. So for us, that's where we leverage AI the most.
You remember data-driven organizations? Everybody
Yes.
wanted to be a data-driven organization.
That's
And
right.
I think before we became data-driven organizations, we've becoming AI-driven organizations.
Right.
Those are evolutions. That's not a point in time. It's an evolution that continues. Eric.
Yeah, two quick things. I would say for those people that are kind of in that starting phase, I think the smartest way, just kind of like what Royce had said, find some areas that you can go into, that you can just start using it, especially if it's going to be like on an underwriting side. I hate automated underwriting, but if it's going to give you a clue so that a person can now come in, I think it's kind of incumbent on credit unions at least to have a physical person be involved in it. That should be our role. So to make that process faster, great. I think the other big thing is keep as much possible data as you can, especially
100%.
Especially for Jordan. Data warehouse for absolutely everything, because you might start getting into that point where you say, hey, we're doing much bigger loans, or we can go after much bigger loans. We have all of this data collected about the particular loans we're doing. Maybe we start offering these out in pieces to other places. I know I went to a conference where a group of college students developed a blockchain-based loan participation system for commercial loans. And you could just upload everything, and people could just randomly go in and buy a little piece, sell a little piece whenever they felt like it. Having that kind of thing is not just, hey, I'm using AI to get something booked. I'm taking the next step and jumping leaps ahead everybody else beyond that point. And that's the kind of stuff you need to be looking at.
It's like Stephen Colbert said, right? He goes, I believe everything I see in movies will happen at some point. It's like this futuristic environment, right? It's like selling of portions of loans, and I mean, it's Bitcoin, blockchain participations. It's out there, and NFTs are doing some of the same things too. Michael.
I don't really have anything to add. You guys have touched everything that I would possibly bring up as final thoughts or questions. So I'm just appreciative that I had another opportunity to hear more voices and more thoughts and ideas about where this is going.
Yeah, congrats on your journey too, because it sounds like you all have made progress. I really do appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much for joining. Like I said, I'll share the recording. If you don't want, please send me a note, and I'll make sure you're excluded from it. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
This is great. Thanks, Karan. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, bye.
Cheers.